Hello, my name is Mike Deschamps. I'm an accounting instructor at MiraCosta College, and we are continuing our discussion today with Ken Bertozzi, who is MiraCosta College's first leader in residence. And Ken, welcome back. And I have some more questions that I'd like to bring up to you. And the first question I have, Ken, is that you grew up in the Great Depression. And I think your point is well taken about frugality. In today's environment, particularly at community colleges such as MiraCosta, we have a lot of students that are struggling to make ends meet, to be able to afford school, rent, daycare, and the such. And that essence of frugality, I think, is very important to them as well.
I think education to me in the upper poor, I see MiraCosta College as the stepping stone. I'm a believer in a community college, I really am.
Well, as someone who is both a product of the community college and a community college instructor, I appreciate that. Going back to your educational journey, when you started out, were you a good student, a bad student? And what motivated you as a student?
I was an only child, and as long as I got good grades, my folks left me alone. They weren't supervising me. So I studied because I wasn't supervised as much by my parents, and they didn't scold me as much. I was in the top 4% of my class in high school. I studied the more detailed things. In college, I did well in both engineering and accounting, business school. But those good grades got me the job in California, which I wanted to do. So I was motivated to get to California.
Talking about that first job that you got after college, having had a dual major, if you will, in engineering and business, what was that experience like when you were out there and you're interviewing for that first position? What are some of the things that you tried to highlight for potential employees that were, recognizable skill sets that you could bring to the position?
Well, to get the job, this is the fifth largest CPA firm in the world, in the United States, and they were headquartered in Chicago. They interviewed me in Chicago. They were interested in getting a bigger position in defense aerospace. They wanted to have an engineer with a CPA so they could get into companies like Lydon and Hughes Aircraft and Boeing and the companies that were really into defense aerospace, and CPA with an engineering degree would be a better fit for management in a company like that.
Today, as a teacher of business and accounting, you come across students that when you talk to them about accounting, they go, well, I don't know, I think it's kind of boring, and I don't think...
It's a bean counter, yeah.
But did you really find your experience as a CPA, as an accountant working for an extremely large company, did you find it boring, or did you find it very engaging?
Boy, it was not boring at all, because I dealt with program managers who were all engineers, and I dealt with corporate management, and my mentor was one of the top financial people in the company, and he sort of mentored me and helped me along. And
do you think that mentoring is a critical aspect of your upward trajectory in business?
I think mentoring when you first enter a company is a very good idea, to be mentored. And it was my 2 degrees with distinction and what I had done that got me the position at Hughes. By the corporate controller hired me. We don't have a job, but we're going to hire you in our biggest manufacturing division as a staff to the controller of that division, and we'll find a good job for you someday. And I ended up at age 30 to be the youngest controller of a new division of commercial products at Hughes Aircraft, and I knew nothing about being a controller or anything like that.
Let me talk about that for a moment. So what are some of the skill sets that you utilize to help you succeed in an area where, as you just mentioned, you had a significant amount of peers that were quite a bit older and perhaps had more experience than you did?
I guess it was my focus on the job and what I had to do. My next job after the corporate controller of the small division, they made me controller of the Space Systems, which was one of the major groups in Hughes. And when Hughes finally sold out, Boeing bought Space Systems. That's where all the communication satellites are that were invented in that division. And I was dealing with all the program managers.
So you're working with very skilled, educated
Program
professionals,
managers.
and which had to be somewhat of a heady experience for someone of your age. And so with
They
that,
seconded me because I had the engineering degree.
what kind of advice would you give or guidance to someone who is a student now and perhaps contemplating a career in accounting? What kind of things would you want to share with them about that as a possible career choice?
A career in accounting, it would be very smart to study for a CPA exam. And if your career in accounting, is there any way you could get into Deloitte Touche, was the largest CPA firm in the world, or I don't know what the next ones are, but Touche is part of Deloitte Touche where I was. Get into not just a bean counter, a small accounting system, but a major accounting system, and go from there, because accounting system does audits, and audits you get to know clients. And the first client that I got to know was Litton Industries, and I got a job there. They wouldn't let me go fishing in Minnesota. So that job led to Hughes Aircraft.
You know, when you talk about the CPA, which you are, and in a professional certification, in other aspects of business, whether it be marketing, human resources, business administration, we see other professional certifications that are on that same level in regards to those areas of business. Would you recommend that students pursue those as well as a way of enhancing their career prospects?
Yeah, if you can get a dual degree with accounting and something to do with engineering, any of the engineering companies would love to have a CPA in their financial area.
And again, extending that a little bit to other business occupations, you know, do you see that professional certifications relating to their fields are important as well?
Oh, I think so. I think any business needs a CPA to run their financial system. Every business has to be successful financially, or they're not successful as a business. So an entrepreneur has to have a CPA if he ever has a business going.
You know, in circling back a little bit to, again, you're this young guy, smart, successful, taking a leadership position in a major company. You are obviously supervising people and interacting with other people on projects. What are some of the traits of leadership that you felt served you well in that position, and some of the things that you would recommend for students coming up that at some point are going to have leadership positions within companies?
Well, I think in leadership, I did my best to educate these people, but the corporate office chose these people for me. And I tried to help these students or these new employees that I had really learn and do a good job, how important it was to focus on what their specific job assignment was. So if they were assigned to a certain product line, really get to know that product line more than just accounting. get to know that product line and financially, and help that product line manager really become successful in the product line and all of his financial things that he did.
Well, and I want to go back to a point that was brought up in your earlier discussion with our MiraCosta College students, and that's financial literacy. You seem to be a very deep believer in financial literacy, and how important, number one, do you think that is in everyone's life? Doesn't matter whether you're an accounting major or not. And what are some of the steps that people can take to increase their level of financial literacy?
Health, wealth, and purpose is a 100-year life. And the wealth building are your productive years when you work for somebody. And if you don't become financially pretty smart, learning how to do a tax return is the first way to do it.
You know, in speaking of tax returns, we know that one aspect of deductions on tax returns is charitable giving. And what are your thoughts about that in charitable giving?
Is probably the most important any person does. And people who have made a lot of money give to charity. So me, I'm giving, the main thing is going to be to a college that helps educate people from the upper poor and lower middle class. And a community college is a great place. Community college is going to be my primary giving after the family, after educating our relatives.
So Ken, as we wrap up here,
Yeah.
and we talk, you know, we've covered a variety of topics with you. Can you tell me in just a couple of sentences, if you could sum up, you know, Ken Bertozzi's philosophy of life and
Okay.
education and living?
Keep your mind going, and don't have such a big ego that you want to buy an expensive house or the most expensive car there is. Buy a good car that'll do the job, and live in a good house that's big enough space. You don't need a 5,000 square foot house.
You want to live within your means.
Yeah, live within your means, right.
Ken, it's been a pleasure. I really appreciate your coming in today. And that today was another part of our conversation with Ken Bertozzi.